Um, First, I want to thank y'all for allowing me to come talk with y'all today. I'm here on behalf of ADITE, and basically they've asked me to show a workflow that we use in our lab. Our lab is I'm going to call it a 2.5-man lab in Sumter, South Carolina. It consists of myself, my wife in the back, Kim, and my daughter-in-law. And throughout the presentation, you'll see how we have to deal with what I think a lot of labs are dealing with today, to where if you have an employee, it's hard to keep them consistently in the chair, consistently at work. And so we've kind of developed a new workflow with some of their equipment to help achieve really good production with working around what we're having to deal with today with sick, people, and, I don't want to say anything bad, but, some people's work ethic, they like to show up late, things like that. And so about 2 years ago, my wife had a heart attack because we ran a milling center and we ran our laboratory. And I say I think she was doing more than I was because, she was dealing with all the behind the scenes. I was just producing. And so she had a stress-induced heart attack. And at that point, we said we were going to have a change in philosophy and a change in our life. So we sold everything we had, and we bought this place here. And so this is her. I can sit on the porch there, watch the water, and relax. And that was our goal, is to simplify and maximize, our production in simplicity. And so we'll sit there in the evenings and watch the birds fly in, and then we'll play with our pets. And so they like to sit there. They sit there. Last year we had 19 different pets. And so when they see us, they get up and they actually go in the water. But I will say that Kim does not walk our dog next to the water. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the Cameo Elegant 3. So us downsizing and getting smaller, it was hard to consistently have a model department, And so I would hire a high schooler here or there to come and pour models, and it was just so inconsistent, having to work around a schedule, that we started presenting this to all of our doctors. And we presented it in different ways, whether it be if they did 30 to 40 units a month, we'll just tack on $10 to your crown and model, and we'll put this in their office. And it's all based upon me knowing the account, and if I know they're a cheapskate, or if I know they're willing to do it, And so the other way is that we approach it is that the three major ones in our area are PrimeScan, Trios, and Itero. All of them basing around 30 grand. All of them have a yearly fee, whether it be a club you're in that's monthly, but at the end of the year, you're going to pay $2,000 to $2,500 extra every year to be in this maintenance. So this scanner here is pretty simplistic. It has a portal. It's a base price $15,000. If you do that by 5 years, it's $300 a month. So that's why a 30 to 40 unit one, we can add the $10, and we can do it. But there's no yearly fees. And so I'm going to go through some of the stuff on the scanner, but the cool thing when I do it to a doctor is they have a little show model in here, and you pull the model out and you scan it. Nobody wants to see you scan a model. And so the way you do it is you go in there, and you got to get your 16-year-old in the couch, and you put them back and you scan their face so you know what they're doing, and they cry. And so after that, you say, I'm just going to learn how to scan myself. And so I got some slides on it, but at the same time, I'm going to show you all the real deal. So the scanner has 3 settings for the anti-fog. So if you're a woman or a small child, you can have it on low. If you're an average adult, you have it on medium. If you're older and have health issues, you're breathing harder, you have it on high. And what it does, it warms this mirror so when it's in your mouth, it doesn't fog up. And it's pretty lightweight. The tips can be autoclaved 100 times. That's another selling point. So that's 100 patients, and every time they do an impression on a patient, it's about $30. So this tip is $80, and I can get 100 patients. So another selling point. It has this feature here, and I'm going to show you. It's called AI in the scan. So when I got this in my mouth, and then you do your finger in there with your glove or whatever, it'll pick that up. But if you have the AI on, the algorithms in the software actually won't even show your tongue. And when it does, it'll actually figure it out and disappear. And it's very compatible with Exocad. It also has a third-party export for Trios. And it's good for pretty much every application. It does need a pretty good graphics card. You can get it with the computer or without the computer. And then the depth on it on the scan is like 20 millimeters, and your normal scan body for an implant is roughly 14. So it'll get as deep as it needs to get when you're scanning. All right, so I am going to minimize this. And then I'm going to pull up the software. So this is your basic entry. So when I go into Office, I pull it up and I show them. Is it not showing that? Hold on, I think I'll have to close it out. Let's see. For it to get that one, let me just close this. There we go. Yeah, I hear the whispers out there. He's like, this is the cheapest one I've seen. And it's good whisper because it is the cheapest one you've seen. And that's why I'm going to put it in my mouth, and you're going to see it's not the worst one you've seen. And so it's a basic entry-level form. So, my patient is Dallas, And so what you can do is, if it's a doctor with multiple doctors in a practice, they can separate their patients, and enter it under each doctor. But this is the one I really like, and this is what I talk to my doctors about. The technician is the assistant. So the workflow that I tell them to do is the assistant gets that patient, seats them. They already know what crown we're looking at, what tooth's hurting them. And so they go ahead and scan. And when they scan, they have everything done. Now, I do ask all of my doctors to do a pre-op scan. So we're not going to do a pre-op scan today. But what that does is if there's just a cuss tip broken off, you can actually rebuild that crown exactly what they had, and then you build the cuss tip back in your software version of design work. And that puts back something that's already excursively sound and things like that, and anatomically sound. But if an assistant is doing something wrong and it's constant, that doctor can look back and they'll start to see the same assistant every time. And then it's not that you're scolding them, you're going to teach them. You're going to teach them to do it right. And so that's something that I explain to the doctors, and they like that. It's an accountability type thing. And so on this one, I went ahead and just selected tooth number 7. And you can see here, you have your options of full crown, ponic. So we'll just hypothetically throw a bridge in there real quick. So you go 6, ponic, 7, full crown. And you see the blue dot. The blue dot means there'll be a connector. That means that we're making a bridge. It's not single units. And so I just wanted to show you that before I started. And then basically down here you have your materials, so you can tell what type. So these will translate through on the portal so that you'll be able to enter them in your system correctly. And down here they just type in A1. If they want some hypo spots or comments, they can put it down there. Y'all can see my cursor, right? Yeah, I think so. And so here we go, antagonist. So you always select the antagonist because it tells the computer that we have 2 arches. That's all. That's the only reason why. So we can go straight into the scan function from there. And let's see. Yep, so you can see at the top of the screen in blue, it tells you it wants the upper arch because that one's pink. And then you have the next one's going to be lower and the next one's going to be your bite. If you accidentally scan the wrong arch, you don't have to rescan. Over here on the side, there are some functions and that says swap jaws. And so you just got to click that and it's going to flip them and you don't have to rescan this patient. Down here is your AI button. And so I'm going to show you the terrible scan first. I'm going to click AI off. So let's start, and you're going to see it pick up my tongue, cheek, all kinds of good stuff. I'm not going to go very far because I'm going to erase it and we're going to start over. So you take it. All right, so do you see the jacked up part of this scan where you're getting all that extra stuff? That's because the AI is not on. So what we're going to do is reset it and we're going to clear it. So now we're going to cut the AI on. So those messed up parts will now disappear because of the software. Single click, it's got a little button on it. Single click will pause it. You can review it, whatever, if you miss a spot. And you see how well it does. And nobody tell me that I have a lot of wear on my teeth because the dentist tells me all the time and I need to use a softer brush or something like that. But you see how well it does tissue. And so if you were to do a denture or a partial, if that was your gig, you know, digital type stuff, you would then select ortho on the first screen and it would allow you just to scan without selecting crown and all that stuff. But you can see here in the upper portion of this, it has a timer. I always like the timer because I like to see how good I do with these and how fast. And so, but you can keep track of how well you're progressing. And some of the assistants actually like that they can. I got one that got mad. She said, the doctor said she can do a night guard scan, full upper lower arches in under 10 minutes. She got mad. She's like, under 5 minutes, 10 minutes, that's not right. And so when you're done, so the doctor doesn't have to touch the screen or anything, he can push the button twice and it'll show up, and then he pushes it to the right and it goes to the next arch. So it keeps it hygienically clean off of your laptop. And so now we're ready for the lower. So now you have your lower. I was able to do upper and lower scans in 2 minutes, 39 seconds. I could go back and fix stuff. So you can take it and roll it around and examine, and you see here like some green back here. Those are spots that I could go back and capture. So what I do with the doctors too is the assistant would do this, and then basically she would prepare this case, and let's see, you would then come in here and hit edit, and you have this blue thing here. And so let's unedit real quick because I need to turn it. So we're going to work on tooth number 20 right here. So you just hit edit, and you would just come in here and edit that, and it erased it. So then you hit your check mark and you lock in everything right here, part lock. And so you say, oh man, all this data right here is all great. We don't want to change anything. So it saves it to where nothing can happen to that. And then the doctor comes back in and he says, okay, I'm going to prep it. And he goes back in there. And that's as much as the doctor needs to scan. And he's like, really, that's all I got to do anymore? And I'm like, yep, that's your final scan technically by law. And that's all you got to do. And so at that point, they hit the double click, move it on over, and let's do a bite. But that's all they would have to do. Prep, do that little bit of scanning. And you can see I could run that scanner everywhere, but all the other images were locked. It's not going to mess up. And so on the bite scan, since we did a full arch, at the bottom it asked for 3 different positions. So on this one, I'm going to do this side. Oh, and if you look at the camera, you can see, this is important, you can see that my bite does not occlude everywhere. So when I put this camera in there, they don't touch. Did you see it? And so that'll come a little further on. I'm going to show you, but that's the most important thing, is making sure they get the bite right. So as soon as I see both models starting to move, I hit the button and go to the next side. All right, so you're done with scanning. So in 3 minutes and 34 seconds, I did the bite, did everything. We're going to go to the next one. It calculates a model. So now it's going to go through all kinds of algorithms. And any holes that we actually had in our scan, it's going to fill them in. And this will take a minute or so. So the better computer you have, the faster this portion will take. I will say that Adite did not send me a computer. And so I had to go get my own, and I was not going to get the most expensive one. I did get the graphics card that met the minimum requirements. So this would be the minimum amount of time. But it's going to calculate everything. It's going to put the bite together. And then you're going to go to the pre-design stage, which is making sure what you did was correct. And so basically, I'm going to show you this. This is what we've done, is to focus on getting our accounts to have intraoral scanners. Like I said, it's economical. To me, it does a good job. What you got?
Who makes the Cameo?
So Cameo is made by Shining 3D. And then it's rebranded and sold by a ton of different people. And so this is Adite's link to creating their full workflow. And so I'm not going to tell you that it is made by Adite. It is not made by Adite, but it is a very good camera for a very good price. And I can't tell you who else sells that camera, but you know, there are other people that sell the same camera, probably in the same ballpark. All right, so it did everything. And so you have here, basically, okay, here's your scans. You can set it so that when it comes into your software, it's in the right patient coordinate system. And then you can pick your tooth, show it where the tooth is. That's basic. It does show it. There it is right there. And then this is the most important thing. If I can get a doctor to mark a margin, I find myself fortunate. But if I can get them to do this right here, then that's the most important thing. So you see the color scale? If it shows up in this portion and there is blue, it's wrong. Blue means we've just gone past 0 and it's overclosed. If it's at red, it's perfect. And remember I showed you where my teeth didn't occlude? If you look in the bicuspid areas, you're going to see less red and more of the yellow and green. So yellow and green mean you're slightly out of occlusion. I want them to check this. This is the only thing I ask them to do. And at that point, they never touch one of my crowns because it's right.
Do you provide support to the doctors?
I do. Unfortunately, I provide support to the doctors, and then I also provide support for Adite everywhere because no one else knows how to use the scanner other than me. And so, yes, that's what I do. Is if you got a scanner and you wanted to do this, I'd come in and make sure I train you to where you understood everything about it. And then if you had a question, you're going to refer to me. They pay me to run my lab, but at the same time, they're paying me to dedicate about an hour and a half a day for support. And so I answer those calls and things like that to make sure that you, the purchaser, is good with your accounts. And I can relate with you because I'm a lab owner too. And so, and the cool thing about this system is if you do provide this to your doctors and whatnot, you can lock it to where they can't send it anywhere else. Yeah. And so you can make sure that investment stays with you. At that point, so when you do this, and like you were talking about, at that point we contact Shining, who is the major manufacturer, and it's all encrypted. They go in there and they lock that thing in so that when it gets to the end and you hit send, you are the only person, and that's the only way to get those files off of there. And so it was funny, we had a sale in Chicago, and this guy said, if you can lock it in, I'm about 20 of them right now. And so the guys from Adite, they call me, and I'm sitting in the lab, and I'm like, oh, crud, they said they can do it. And he's on speakerphone, and he goes, no, I don't want to know if they said it. And I'm like, all right, I'll do it tonight. And so it's a 12-hour difference with these guys and whatnot. And so that night at 7, I get on there, and I'm like, all right, lock this one in. You got to show me it's locked in so I can give this guy an honest answer. So they can. They go in there, it's encrypted. They lock it to where it can only do that one thing. And so,
Going back to them.
huh?
What about going back to them as they took the scan? Can they say they buy a printer in office? Can they print their own night guards?
No, it's locked in. That's all it will do. Like when you hit send and this is all set up, it will only show, like in mine, Wilson Dental Lab. There's no other place on there that it's all grayed out so that they can't pull any other files. Now, if that's something you want, then maybe they can unlock that one thing. If you say, hey, I don't mind them doing that, if that's a selling point for you, these guys have been very good about working with you. But that's, I don't know if you're asking the question because you want your doctor to be able to print something.
I'm just curious if you had your doctors that called you and said, hey, I bought a printer, can you send me a file?
So would,
Now you're on the phone again, now you're sending files.
so would my doctors that I have, I don't care what they do. Because the lowest tenure doctor I have is 10 years. So at this point, if they're going to send a night guard somewhere else, I don't care. But yeah, so to answer your questions, I don't lock any of mine in. But that seems to be I'm not in a major metropolis where everybody's fighting over it.
Yeah, that's the question. Does it really lock them in? Because we've had other people, I won't say any names, Serona, Omnicam, they say they locked everybody out, and then the doctors still get access to other labs. They'll send it somewhere else.
Yeah, no, this is encrypted. This is locked.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they shut it down. And so, like when I get to the end here, so let's say everything's good. It will show, the other features on here is like if we had a prep tooth, they can look down on it, it'll show undercuts, and then they can mark their margin. And which is simple, but like I said, if they'll mark their margin for me, I just consider that a bonus because most of them are wrong, and then I can look through it at least. But when you hit send, if you look here, when they would do this, there's only one thing that shows up. It doesn't allow you to grab files anywhere else. They can never go in there and alter it. And so that is the basis of this, but this is the start of our workflow for our lab. You got a question? You good? What you got?
How quickly does it come to us in your lab?
Pretty darn quick. I would say within 5 minutes you got it.
Itero, I'm going to compare it to Itero. It goes to Itero in 24 hours, they clean up.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Then we get it, and I watch it, and it's Itero modeling, and then how long does it take to Itero model?
Yeah, there's a major reason why I don't even deal with Itero. So, yeah, I mean, Itero is a good scanner, but yeah, I'm not going to do that. And in the beginning, Itero had to make your model. No, we're not dealing with that. I want to make my own model. And so, yeah, no, this one, what I did was with mine is like my exocad's in our office is only probably 1,000 yards from our house. So I got a big old office built over there, and so I hit the button while I'm sitting in the house and go out there, and by the time I get out there, it's there. So it's pretty quick portal. And I imagine honestly that if there was a ton of use on it, it might slow up some, but I've never seen it slow up. And the other thing is that on the portal, everything that you do is cloud-based. So all the memory is 1,000 gigabyte cloud-based. So it's a lot.
Is the portal free?
The portal is free. That's the selling point. Is you're not paying anything. Once you do the 15 grand, and I'm like, dude, you're going to pay $2,000 to $2,500 a year with Itero, 3Shape, and PrimeScan. And if you do that times 5, that's $10 plus $1,000. This is 15. You're done.
What if you don't buy the scanner, you're just allowed to work with it?
If you don't buy the scanner, so it's free. You go to the website, it's 3dcloud.com or something like that, and you create your account, and they just go right in. Yep. Yep. So I'm going to shut this down and go back to the presentation.
So you do edentulous arches as well?
Yes, so my standard thing for an edentulous arch is that I'm going to make you a bite room. And so if you want to scan it, you're going to utilize a bite rim that is going to allow us to be able to do that. Whether you scan that edentulous arch and send it, now I will say our new protocol is our doctors that do edentulous digital dentures take the impression and actually get a desktop like a Medit scanner desktop and scan the impression, because impression material compresses the tissue. And with us doing some digital stuff, strictly digital, that was the feedback we got is the one with the impression, because the tissue is compressed, has better suction. And so I'm not going to tell you scan digital and do it that way. So do that, build model, make a bite rim, and then get your bite and everything and make sure it's right.
Would you make maybe a base plate on a scanned printed model?
Yes.
Before you process it, have to do a wash impression?
And you can do that too, because I know 3Shape has a very nice system where you can scan the wash and all that stuff and get that fit. And so that's another option. Yeah. Yeah, the wild, wild west of digital dentures is forming. We're trying to develop our own workflow with it. And we do a lot of, we mill our dentures bases because we like fiber in our acrylic. And so I'm not so far sold, but we are dabbling into starting to print them. So here we are. And it says I can get a current slide. And that's where we left off. And there we go. So is it on there? It's on there. All right, so here's another picture. We'll scroll through most of this because, well, this is a little video they have. I have a few videos. I don't want to put y'all totally to sleep, but it'll go through it. I have slides on this. I'm going to talk while it's going through the video, so we'll review some of the slides. All right, we're going to skip the video because apparently it wasn't doing right. Let's see, there it is. Let's go. All right, so it does the ergonomic design. So they had a older version that had a shorter tip, and they made the tip longer. Did y'all see how easy it was for me to scan the distals of my second molars? That's key. And it's pretty light. Yeah, one of my major doctors has a prime scan, and we went in there and did some testing with it. And I will say on the weight of a scanner, it's just getting used to it. You know, when you get in a car and you've been driving this car and you get in that one, you stomp on the gas on accident, it's the same type deal. They have two different tips. It's funny because my wife has some central implants and whatnot, and we went to scan her mouth, and she's not a very big person, and so we actually went to the slimmer tip, and it works. It just lowers the field of vision, but it scans just as great. You can autoclave them 100 times. I already said that. There's the cloud-based memory. Your setup. And then you saw it was in color, but if your doctor marks a margin, you can see lines and details with the color off. So always suggest that. And that was your margin marker, and that shows the undercuts. So it also has a feature to where they can utilize this to scan a mouth and actually send a treatment plan via those little barcode funny things that you click on at the restaurants now that you don't want to touch, and it'll actually pull up their treatment plan with some images and whatnot. And that really, the patients like that. They said, man, my doctor just sent it right to my phone. And so now we're going to get in. We're done with the scanner. Anybody got any questions about the scanner? Okay.
What is the warranty? If it's past warranty, can they fix it?
So as far as the warranty, I'm not sure. So we'll have to make a phone call on that. But as far as getting it fixed and things like that, that would be more of, most likely you would get a replacement one sent to you, and then we would ship it back and have whatever one you have fixed.
But that's something really, I guess, that
Hadn't come to fruition yet. Yeah. So but that's what I would, if it were me and my scanners happen like that, I'm going to ask for a loaner, and because all you're doing is taking this and unplugging it and sending this back, because that's the only part you got. And so yeah, that would be my answer is hey, they need one, you know. So this is the 500 DC. So this is our milling machine that we use, and let's see, I think I got a video here. This is a little video on it. It's 12 puck changer. And the price point on it is roughly under 60 grand. And you can't get a single puck changer for 50, you know, so this gives you the opportunity to go with 12. That's where your jobs are. You select your job. It's going to start. And so this video is done before the C-clamps. I'm going to show you a video of ours with the C-clamps. But you see it just picks it up. It just starts milling. And when that job's done, it's going to put it back. And it's going to grab another one and start milling again. It holds 10 burrs. It mills zirconia or PMMA. So you can have it lined up to where 5 of the burrs are PMMA burrs, 5 are zirconia. Load those jobs up, it'll go grab the right stuff and mill them. Or you can have it as ours. We just really mill zirconia out of ours, so we got 10 with backup burrs in the other slots. You see it just grab the other one and does it. So I'm going to show you how we use ours with this feature. Hyperdent or mill box. We use Hyperdent. We like Hyperdent. And if you get one of those machines, actually my wife is the trainer or person that will train you on the software. Yeah, so when we time ours, we're getting around 12 minutes. Yep. All right, so here's your specifications on it. I think one of y'all had an interest in the spindle and whatnot. It's a 60,000 RPM spindle, but it's 1,500 watt. It's heavy duty. And it does the 5-axis, holds the 10 burrs, and it takes 6 bars of pressure, which is all common stuff. But the spindle is robust. And these features here, what we liked about it, this is what we wanted, was the axis of 360 degrees. So I don't know if any of you have ever seen 90-degree milling, but it will turn that puck with that C-clamp, and that thing will just cut the whole facial of your restoration out, and you don't have to do any touch-up grinding and whatnot. It's very, very detailed. The big feature for us is the 12-disc changer and remote control. Remote control, I'm about to show y'all how that affects our daily life because of employees. Here's the inside of it. So I think somebody wanted to see the inside. So it's put together pretty well. Everything's in order. In the upper left, that's the digital air pressure gauge. So you're not looking at a little dial and whatnot. You just dial it right there and it's going to tell you digitally what it is. And then the upper right, it can be hooked up 3 different ways. So you can use Wi-Fi. That's the Wi-Fi antenna. And then you can use a USB or a Ethernet cable. And then you can actually use a flash drive. We've used all 3. And then you can see on the bottom, those are all Panasonic somethings down there. But I mean, Panasonic's not a bad name. And it's just put together very nice. And then in the upper chamber, where it does all the changing of the discs and stuff, it's all steel. This thing weighs 1,009 pounds. And I had to build a ramp. It will go through a standard door opening, but I had to build a ramp and push that son of a gun into my office because we could not get it up in there. But it's the size of a refrigerator. But if you look, I took some pictures of the tracks and then see that shaft that goes on there. That thing's like over 1 inch thick. It's huge. And then the motors impressed me. And so these are some of these motors I was telling you about. And so we have 5 other milling machines that are not 8-ite. And so I opened them up and I said, I want to check it out. So this is the 8-ite on the left at 2 3/4 inches wide. It's a robust motor. All of them are this size. And then that is a Serona mill at 1 5/8 inches, and I drew the red line. That's the difference in size of those motors from those 2. This thing's built to last. So here's kind of the purpose behind it, is because this is how our lab kept looking. The person that was supposed to be nesting and milling kept not showing up. So she has a 8-month-old and a 2-year-old, and of course they're sick all the time. And of course the babysitter's sick when they're not sick, and so I can't keep her working in the office. So we developed a different protocol to meet what we had to work with. So in the morning, our employee wakes up and she takes one kid to daycare if she can, and the other one she keeps at home, and she logs into our office and she nests all our crowns from home. And then she hits the button and the machine starts without us being there. I mean, Kim and I are there working, but we don't know what's going on. It's just sitting there, the computer screen's moving by itself, and she's sitting at home doing it. But it allows her to keep her kids and allows us production. And so basically the only thing we require is that she comes in 1 to 2 hours a day and cuts these crowns out and puts them in the center oven. But it gives her a chance to, come in, cut, go get lunch, go back home. She's carrying her kid with her, all that stuff.
Is that through VPN, or does she have software on her?
We use Splashtop, and so it's $200 a year. And so if you get it, it allows you 10 computers to put on there. So like at night, if I'm ready to go home, I'll sit on the couch, watch Ink Masters, and design crowns, but it also allows her to log in and do her job. So we like that a lot. And there's no lag that we see in Splashtop compared to like a TeamViewer or something like that. We don't see that at all. It actually runs off the computer that's doing the work, not your computer. So she comes in the 1 to 2 hours, cuts everything out, smooths them, puts them in the oven, and she goes home. And at about 3:30 to 4, she comes back online, and she checks to see if anybody has it. We use Dropbox for putting our files in. And so she'll check all the Dropboxes, make sure there's something in there. And if there is, she nests them, hits start, and that machine works at night.
So how long do your milling bursts last? So like if there's a milling for a problem, say one of them cracks or breaks off in the middle of the night, I know in terms of time management, their kids and everything. So how does that work? Does it have any?
So it holds 10 burrs. It uses 5 for a job, and so it just goes and grabs the one in the let's say if it's 1 over here and 6 is over here and the one burr breaks, it grabs 6 and continues. Yeah. Now if you're doing a PMMA at night and a zirconia and you have them 5 and 5, you're in a different situation. At that point you're a little struck, but we don't utilize ours that way, so I can't give you a 100% answer. Just want to be honest. And so you might come back in and it has an error sitting there. So, but yeah, so that's kind of how we do it. So the only time that she has to contact us is if you see these pucks are partially used and whatnot. If one's fully used, she might say, hey, can you put another A1 in slot 1 for us?
The rack of pucks, the rack of 12, after it picks up the puck and goes to milling, does that close off completely, or is it still kind of open?
The inside of the chamber is all open. And so there's a door on the left side of the machine and a door on the front. So the front door will access the chamber and the side door access the racks. Yeah, but they both shut. So there's your 90 degrees. So it has the C clamps in it. So it gives you the 90 degree milling. Plus, here's what I really like is so on average with our single round puck mills, which are Sharona and Amman and whatnot, we're averaging about 20 units a puck. But because this face is open, we can nest closer to the edge, and we're averaging 24 now. If you factor in 24 units a puck, that's an extra 4 units at 100. If you just do $100 a unit, your pucks are free because you've just freed up space. That's the way I look at it with my lab, but everybody's different. But that's how I look at it: is we're getting 4 more extra units per puck. What we also noticed was, and this is what I really like about it, is so these 4 crowns were all milled at the same time. They are all screw-retained implant crowns. That's what my lab does, is mainly 60% of our business is screw-retained crowns. And so the ones on the top were milled in our MCX5s, and the ones on the bottom were milled in the 500 DC. If you notice, they are slightly smoother. You see we didn't even realize, we thought our MCX, we were like, this is a premier, this is good stuff. And then we started noticing the difference because we'd never seen the difference before. And then the other thing is that the 2 on the top took 53 minutes to mill. The ones on the bottom took 26. Almost half. Or half. Yeah, half. 52 would be the half. So, but yeah, about half the time, and those, because screw retain's got a little more angles they got to do. And so in our MCX5s, they were dogging us forever. But this one milled it twice as fast. That's good for us. And so those are 2 things we did notice. So here's the other scenario of what impressed us. Is my wife Kim ran a milling center for about 7 years, and she ran 3 MCX5s and 1 Alman Gerbach. And so on average, in a normal 8-hour day, the number of units that you're working those machines, they're single puck machines, she would get about 30 units out of each machine a day. If she's lucky, she's going to grab 35, you know, she might have a good day, but on average. And then with those machines running about 15 minutes a unit, that's 7.5 hours of milling. You only had about 30 minutes free time. And it's a constant interruption.
How long does it take before you have to recalibrate?
Recalibrate about, if you want to set a standard, you do it about once a month. But I'm not going to tell you we do ours once a month. We recalibrate ours as soon as we might see chipping and we know we have burrs that are not worn out. And so that's kind of the way we do it. But calibration is very easy also. It just has a wooden puck, does a square, you measure 3 times, enter the numbers in, you're back to business. So I wanted to put everything in perspective, so I didn't want to tell you this machine is going to mill more than 30 a day. So I'm going to apples to apples on your 8-hour day. But what we noticed was the milling times were faster in our MCX5s. So that portion was different because we got about 6 hours of milling for the 30 units compared to the 7.5. But the key point is when we can set it at night and roll. And we do not do 50 units every night. But if you had 50 units, if you're a larger lab, you can actually nest and hit start at night. Let's just say 50 units at the time frame of 12 minutes a unit. You started at 5:30 in the afternoon, at 3:30 in the morning it's done milling. And you come back in the next morning, all 50 of your units are done. That's the beauty of it. And so for the little guy or the big guy, one machine, you can roll out 1,600 units in a month. That's major money. For a $60,000 investment, that's good stuff. So I have a video here of showing y'all the open face milling. It's going to be about 15 minutes, but there is some comical review in this thing, but it's going to show you on the top screen how the machine works. But I did it Facebook Live, and one of my buddies who owned the milling center with us, he has a lab in Charleston, South Carolina, and he asked to be on it. But he didn't realize he got on Facebook Live. He just thought he was talking to me. And so if anybody doesn't like a cuss word here or there, I'm sorry. But he is a true dental technician. So I'm going to play the video. All right, there we go. Let's see. All right, so you can see that we've already established that this thing has cut out the facial. And what it does, it takes the big burr and it just cuts away real rough, the whole outside. There's Brad.
What's up, man? That is awesome.
He doesn't know he's live.
Look how much
I love that.
puck is.
I see that. I mean, and oh God, that is so much better than having to do a lot of that by hand.
Yep, y'all need to get one.
I tell you. Is that the one that you've been telling me about?
Yep.
I keep all my answers short so he
That
can
is
talk.
so cool. I'm getting ready to show Lori.
Oh, this is his wife. So she actually ran the milling center with my wife, so she knows about stuff.
Look at this, Lori. You know how
Her
I'm
face
always
is funny.
talking about how you put it in a pot?
Yeah,
This is Duff's mill.
yeah,
That mill, you see how it's cut everything away?
yeah.
You can get to the teeth now. So the burrs can actually get in there and mill a lot of that we're still having to carve.
Oh, nice.
I mean,
That was
that is
fun.
unbelievable. I'm going to show this to Jack, and he'll probably be calling for one.
Okay. He makes it.
That is-
He makes it nice, man.
That is, and that one I saw the other day,
So he gets
that
to
you've
rambling
been
because he doesn't know he's
working
live.
on,
So he starts talking about
that
whatever.
looked good. That looked good.
Thank you. This
I
one
told
right
Roy,
here,
I said,
think-
I told Roy he needed to look at the colors you were putting on there.
Yeah, Roy doesn't have all those pinks, so I need to get him a test pink kit.
That was nice. It looked good.
Thank you, man.
So,
Took me,
so
I
what's
think
the deal
you
with
have
you and
taken
zirconia, man?
3
All of a
fires.
sudden, you're doing zirconia.
Huh?
So I
I
always
said,
told
what's
him
the
I wouldn't
deal
do
with
zirconia
zirconia?
full arches on tie
About 2
bases.
years ago, you told me you weren't going to do any.
Oh, yeah, I only do them with the bar in them.
Yeah, but now you're a master at it.
This one right here is not for me.
Some lab in up north asked us to mill this so they could actually see the difference
Are you
compared to
doing the bar
their
too
non-open
at your
face
lab,
mill.
or is someone milling it for you?
Of course, we're a true technician. We'll smoke a cigarette right there in the house.
Okay.
But I'm designing it on ExoCAD.
Okay, so you're doing all the design, and are you having any fit problems?
Nope.
Oh, that's cool. That's what I was so worried about designing it, because every time I'd ask someone, oh, well, you can design it, but we're not guaranteeing it.
Well, and that's what they tell me also, but I don't let anybody scan them in, I can tell you that.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
And then, so that's why I was asking, because I get they're not going to guarantee it, but if it's done right, then it shouldn't be a problem.
No, not if everything's verified.
So basically, he's talking about designing the way I do my full arches is I design a bar, full bar with a 4-degree taper to 8-degree taper on it.
Now, I'm
And
waiting
then I
on
milled a
the,
zirconia with a
intraoral
trough in
scanner.
it and it
We've
slides down
done-
on the bar
I don't know how
because
many
I don't
we've
like to
done.
have
Intraoral
the implant
scanners.
tension on my zirconia. I want it on the titanium.
Doing it with an
And
intraoral
so he gets to
scanner,
rambling about it.
and probably, 50% is what
And he was just asking where I got my bars made and stuff like that. He does a
Yeah,
he
I
does a
wouldn't do
lot
them off
of
intraoral
full
scanner.
arches.
Yeah, they stitch it together so much, and it goes across the arch individually stitched, and there's just too much inaccuracy there. And we verified it with all the models
So
and
when he
everything.
finds out he's on
Everything appears
Facebook, I'm gonna
lined
fast
up,
forward it a little bit.
And yet, half of them fit, half of them didn't.
Check this out, Brad.
Oh, yeah. And so it mills that puck, that face out of it, and then starts milling.
Yep, it cuts it all away.
Okay.
You see, he just goes and puts it back,
And just
and
putting
then
it back, and you could go and it's going to grab, if we have more in it, it'd grab another one and mill another one.
And how many discs can you put in there at a time?
12.
Holy shit.
there you go.
Yeah.
So there's the door on the other side. I
See him
opened
in
the
there?
door on the other side.
Yeah. And you're doing all the design on all this?
Do what?
I said, and you're doing the design on all of y'all's stuff. You're doing all the designing?
Yeah, I spend half a day every day designing.
I don't know if I could do that and run. I don't know. Hey, you'll love this, man.
So he gets
I
to
get
rambling, and I
in today,
apologize. That You'll love this. There's a doctor,
And
blah,
I
blah,
was out of
blah.
surgery, came in about 12:30,
I'm trying to see if I can fast forward.
and get up there, and they want me to. Half of our dentists don't know how to scan.
So I'll leave it kind of right there because you can kind of see the detail that it gets on the face of that full arch. That when you're doing a fully enclosed one, it's got to go from this side and go from this side, and it doesn't get interproximals all that well. So that's what we really like about the machine. At the end, I blow, Kim, my wife, goes and gets it and blows it off, and we show better pictures. But he goes into rambling, and I'm not going to keep you on that one too much longer there. So the zirconia we use, the 8-ite zirconia, is their 3D Pro. So I'm going to get into the 3D Pro and the Biomic on the last portion of this. Does anybody have any questions about that machine before I go further? We good? Okay. Y'all got all the answers y'all want? Okay. So we initially were using Katana, and we had a UTML, STML, the HTML. They had all those different ones, and they're all for different stuff. And so here's that slide. I'll go for that and go backwards. But so they had all these things. So the UTML was only rated for single crowns, but it had 51% translucency. So that was the highest translucent zirconia that Katana had, but you can only use on single unit. So we had that on the shelf. And then we had STML, which was, you know, your 3-unit bridge, your 4-unit bridge, and that's all you could use it for. And then you had the HTML, which was strong, 1150 megapascals, but it's only 45% translucency, and that was your big bridges. And so Kim and I got to talking, and we were like, we got $60,000 sitting on the wall. You know, we're a 2-man lab. We got 60 grand tied up, sitting on the wall. And so we're like, you know, Bob and Tom started talking to us about their zirconia. And we got to looking at the numbers and everything. And it's like, okay, here's this one zirconia. It's 57% translucent. So right off the bat, it's more translucent than the most translucent zirconia that Katana had, which is what we were using. And then it's 1,050 megapascals. So it's rated for single tooth all the way to these hybrids. One zirconia to do it all. So we lowered our inventory by 2/3. That's $40,000 back in our company's pocket and less overhead sitting on the wall. So that was the business in my head, you know, and I'm like, that's just better because you don't want to be stressed in tight times to have that tied up. So that's kind of the way I look at it. Just so you know, like the 3D is 57% in the translucent portion of the zirconia, and then it's actually a little stronger on the color portion. So it goes, it's a little less translucent on the color portion. It's around 46. So the way that works is that when you do cover implants, you do cover that, or you have the bad stump shade, it's not going to shine through. It's made not by layers, it's more graduation of color. So that's everything you can get it for, the different sizes and whatnot. But that was our business motto on the zirconia. And, you know, we went from the 3 different ones to that. And they have sintering ovens. I'm going to go briefly on this because I want to go to the, actually I'm going to skip it. But they have a sintering oven, which we use. They have a porcelain oven that we use. They're very nice. The one I'm going to go to now is the Biomic. All right, so Biomic crown. So they came up with Biomic, basically bio as in living organism, mimic. So they're trying to mimic nature, which is hard. And so it's an all-in-one kit, so you can use it on PFMs, lithium disilicate, zirconia, anything. It's very color stable. You can fire it a gazillion times and it's not going to change because it fires so low. This is your basic colors. This is your aesthetic kit, A through D. You have your 3D in and 3D V. So if you're familiar with like Mio, they have structure. Those are your structure. They're not glazes. So the one most common mistake people do is they get this kit and they start painting the 3Ds on there and it's not glaze. It's porcelain. It's just in a paste form. So it goes on grainy and they don't like it. And I say, try to glaze F. Okay, now we're good. The one thing that people say they like better over Mio is the 4 incisals. You have a mauve, a blue 1, blue 2, and a black. So you got a little more color palette on that. So they got a few different ways of looking at this. You look at high saturation, your basic hue, and your warm areas and cold areas. So they got you a color chart over there of where to put them. So I went through all this stuff when I'm trying to make, you know, how I apply it. So then they got you an actual tooth that you can see it on. And then also they have, this is an open kit. So if you have initial, color, all that stuff, you can use it with this. So you can put the F glaze on there, you can use their colors, but you say, this one has a color I like. You can just put it in it. As long as it fires under 800 degrees, it's not going to come out any differences in your firing when you're adding colors. So it's kind of an open system of a glaze. The three colors they didn't put in here was red, brown, olive green, and deep orange, because a lot of people have that color already. So they didn't put it in their kit. They sell it individually, but a lot of people have those in their kits and they can just use them that way. I think this is another slide of it. So here's a slide of basically the other people that have kits, the GC Spectrum, the Essence, all that, those are the same colors. So they just didn't include it. So here's your basic glaze. So in my office, I take some Gladwell accounts, and they want a little better price, and so I'm only going to spend a couple of minutes glazing their stuff, and it still has no problem. So here's a short video on this, how I learned how to do it. I watched the Adite videos, and so this is their basic glaze, and it's going to just be a couple of colors, and they're done. So that's your F glaze going on. And you just make a nice little layer of it, and then you're going to basically use that and mix your colors inside the F glaze on the tooth instead of mixing them off. So they'll apply it, and then he's going to start working it around and blend it. Now, when I saw the video, I'm like, this is the worst thing, because who glazes on the model like that? But I put mine on a peg and glaze, but they don't, that's what they have. So I'm like, all right, this is what I got to work with. So I'm sure they got glaze all in the margin. So they put the blue one on the edge to create that transparent look. And then I think he comes back with some black, which is basically gray, and get some of these little things. Yeah, a little white. But it's not a lot of colors, but it turns out nice. I mean, so since I've used the Biomic, I've gotten more questions of, is that layered? And it's not, it's just stained glaze. It is like a micro ceramic anyway, so it gives depth. And it's really easy to use. So there it is, fired. That's the Adite one. And so we're like, all right, Duff, let's do the Sumter Country Boy video. Oh yeah, and I got music on mine. But so I do the exact same thing. I got it on a peg, and all I did was I just follow what they're doing and just seeing if I can come up with the same scenario. And it's paint by numbers basically, but I check to make sure there's no spots on it. This goes on very, very smoothly. And so now I'm going to put a little A on there and mix it in. Yeah, that's the 3D Pro. So it's already graduated in color. It makes it real easy. So basically all I do is I use a lot of black in mine. And I just hit the mamelon areas to separate them with the black, and then I outline it with some white, craze lines, and halo it, and I'm done. Warm up the inner proximals. I do that on all my crowns. But it's like a 3-minute glaze. If anybody is actually interested in this stuff, and because I'm not going to go over it all because I got basically 18 minutes left. I have all this stuff on Facebook. So if you have, I'm putting more and more on Instagram, but if you want to look at it, message questions, I do it all the time and answer it. But if someone's interested in Biomic, I video and put them on all the time. It doesn't move. Yeah, what you see is what you get. And that's where it stays. It was funny, somebody had me, a guy, they've already left, but they had me, I actually glazed one in there and used someone else's furnace and fired it. And I put it in a furnace and it fell over. And we fired it anyway, and all the colors were exactly where I put it. It was a little grainy in a spot, but you know, they don't move. They stay, and that's what I like about it. And that's why I'm going to skip a couple of more steps here, and I'm going to go to the pink, because the pink is where it really does good. So I do the blue one on the mesial aspect and distal aspect of my anterior crowns, and then I do the black or gray. It says black, but it's more like a gray, and I do that right there. And that starts to really create the translucency. I would say dim the light so we could see it a little better, but I know all y'all would fall asleep. And then I hit a little gray on the lingual aspect of it. It is part of the tooth. I actually, you know, the funny thing is like just by doing that little bit of crap on there, they're like, he took his time. He put something into it, and it wasn't anything. But you can, and sadly enough, I'm looking at this screen, which is smaller and better mega, and I'm looking at that one, and I'm like, and y'all can't really see all of it. But you can see some of the gray, you know, lines in there and stuff. And then I'll have at the end, I'll have a picture of it. So that's mine fired. And you can see the lobes in there and all that stuff. And that way. So one of the other things I like about the kit is the 3D paste. So you can see in that video, see how you can see the lobes in it? So the 3D pastes are ceramic. It's just a paste ceramic. And you can condense it. You can make it have shape. So you see that point on there? You can make that point stay. And so if you get a crown that comes back and it says, hey, I don't have any contact, can you get it into contact slightly out? I'm not going to say build it up huge. But you can add to a ridge. You can add to an incisal edge on the anterior, and you can make it a 0.5 millimeter to 1 millimeter, almost 1 millimeter taller with utilizing those pastes. So it's also, like I said, an open type system. So you can take a GC Lissy, mix it with their liquid 2 and create a paste. And if you have a situation like this one where this implant was off, the other two are implants also, but that implant was off. I don't know why, but it came back and we had to add that contact. You can see that screw channel on the very back of it is right on the edge. And so I had to make some changes, and I didn't stack porcelain. You can see how it was. I had to add that. And so I made my paste using the liquid 2 right there. And I took some Lissy Dentin and some Lissy enamel, mixed them with that liquid 2 and created those pastes right there. I put the paste in place. You can see it on there. Before I put it there, I actually condensed it and let it dry. And then after I fired it, Now our contact's good. It's porcelain. And the cool thing about that is how many times have you added a contact or whatever and blown a bubble? This all fires with no vacuum. It'll never blow a bubble unless you got it like a piece of dirt in there. But here's another scenario. Implant crown. So screw retains are tough. Doctors have adjacent, contradicting path of insertion. They grind the contact off. They send it back and said they never touched it. And so, I'm like, all right, we just get a little, there it is again from looking down on it, and ground it off. And so I just mix up the same thing, add it to it, fire it with no vacuum. There it is. I just used the enamel with the Biomic liquid too, added it. Unfortunately, it still had to have that pinpoint type contact, but it does have contact, and I was able to fix that.
You just mix that Biomic liquid with porcelain? Is that what you're saying?
Correct. So as long as it's the low fusion type porcelain, like a Lissy, works with that. And you can make it a paste, and it opens the architecture of the whole system because now you can fire with no vacuum, and you don't have the bubbles. So to me, they have like one of the best pink kits I've ever seen. And they studied a lot of different gums. And they have 5 different pinks and then a regular pink. And everybody thinks it's funny, but it's like, I always say it's paint by numbers. So you see on the thing there, it's like pink 1 goes in the free gingiva. Pink 3 goes in the sulcus, is darker, and then if you want to make your pink darker or lighter, you would increase the height of that sulcus pink 3. And then once you get that shaped up, you just fill in the gap with pink 2. Now there are some other intricacies, like you can see that where the root eminences are, you can actually put a little ivory, a little A1, whatever in there to make them lighter. But just by doing 1, 2, 3, and then you see over here on the second one, you fill in the interproximals and make them even darker with pink 4. And then you come back with pink 5 with I use an endo file, and you just draw these nice lines with pink 5, and it's veins. I mean, it's beautiful. So this is a fast forward video, but he's going to do all of this at one time. I'm going to check to see how long that video is. Yep, it'll be about a perfect time, and then I'll scroll through my last ones and we'll be done. But yeah, so he puts a little surface on there. You got 1, 2, 3. So he's going to take, and now he does his different. He is going to put 2 on there, and then he's going to go back. He's going to do it in reverse. He's going to put 2, then he's going to do 3 and 1. So he does the 2, and that's his base shade. And then he's going to come back. He's putting, with this type paste, since it's ceramic, don't brush it. You're moving the material. The material will stay where you move it. And then if you wanted to, you can blend it. So now he's putting the pink 3 in that sulcus area, and is going to darken it up. And the funny thing is if you're watching this video, I mean, it's not as hard as you think if you just think of it as paint by numbers. And the only differences you have is your imagination of where you, how dark you want it or how light you want it, and that's where you transition the 1, 2, and 3. But see, he's just going to add it to the free gingiva area. When he's done, he's going to come back with a brush and just clean those lines up. Now, I will say I never knew how hard it was to actually glaze under a camera until I started doing it on Facebook and all that stuff, because half the time I get someone saying, "You're not in the screen." And that's probably the ones I do the best at. All right, so you got 4 and 5. So 4 and 5, you're going to go in those interproximals and darken it up, and then 5, you're going to create veins. And then that's the 3D mix. He does 3D on his. So in my last slides, I must have the upper arch where I don't use 3D, and the lower arch I will use 3D. To me, if it depends on what level you want to be, but there's really not that big a difference. What the 3D allows you to do is actually condense it and texture it if you want to have it, that orange peel effect on your tissue. And then he's going to put it for those root eminences right there because it stretches the tissue and the roots colors start to come through.
That's not a porcelain, that's a stamp, right?
That's right. Well, he mixed some 3D in there to give it a little more definite, depth to it. And so he basically took pink 1, which is lighter, the lightest one, and he put the 3D mix with it, and then that's what he's doing for those root eminences. And basically he's going to fire it, and then he's going to come back and put the 3D paste on there. But there's the veins. So now he's going to drop some blood vessels in there. So this guy that's doing this is Luke Kang. He's on YouTube. He does a ton of adite glazing. That's how I learned, is I just watched his videos. And he is absolutely amazing. And he has good videos, and he does some nice YouTubes to help understand it. But in my opinion, you just copy what they're doing, and you can make it look just like this. It's not hard. So there he is. He's going to fire it.
What's his name?
Luke Kang, K-A-N-G. So there it is after the bake. So a lot of times what I notice is after the first bake, you can see the colors are a little more intense. And then he applies the 3D to it. So there's his 3D. And he's not going to go all the way into the sulcus with it. He's just going to hit right there. And he puts it on there and condenses it, and then takes a little brush that he's like chopped in half and just stipples it. And condenses it with a tissue. And it actually moots the colors, and it looks really nice. So I did it, like I said, I did it on one arch that had a little more tissue showing, and then I did it on the other arch. I didn't do it on the other arch, and there really wasn't that big a difference that I saw.
The 3D is a structure portion.
That's correct, same as structure. And then you just condense it. Like I said, that's the beauty. It stays where it's supposed to stay. You can't take regular glaze and condense regular glaze because it's going to come off on your tissue. And then he just takes that little short brush and stipples it.
If you have to fire it again, do you lose that structure?
No. So it fires at 7:30, and I promise you, most of the time, I just continue to fire at 7:30, but it says you can fire at 7:20 for your second fire, and if that's the case, you're not going to lose your structure. And I don't know if that's because it's not firing with a vacuum or what, but it doesn't change. But firing it too high is absolutely terrible. Don't fire it too high. I wouldn't go over 740. Now, I had a kid that was at a big lab in California, and he kept texting me. He does the full arch glazing for that lab, and I'm like, "What are you firing at?" And he's like, "I fired at 900." And I was like, "No wonder it's like just blah." It was glossy, but there it is after the bake. You can see the depth and everything to it. You know, it's not hard to do. And so I basically said, you know what, I got this one. This is the upper one that I did no 3D on. And so I said, all right, I put the pink 2 on there. This is before I developed mine. And I was like, all right, I got the pink 3 on there. Now, that's the different look of the pink with the pink 2 and 3. And then I said, let me add some pink 1. So you can actually see the lightness of the pink 1 in there. And then that's from the other side, pink 1, 2, and 3. And then that's what it looks like after I fired it. And you can see the lightness of the free tissue and the darkness, interproximal and whatnot. Here's another angle. This is the lower. So this is the one I added the structure, the 3D to. And so you can see that in that video, some of the dark areas are a little more pronounced. And so I added the 3D to it, fired it, and that's what it came out looking like. Oh, my bad. And then that's what it looked like, and that's with the 3D and everything. Get rid of that. So here's the case. That's from the side. So here's the case. This is the upper against the lower. And I know the upper doesn't have a ton of pink showing, but to me it just didn't look like it was worth it to me to go the extra mile on doing the 3D on every case. So I would just say with it, use it sparingly. So with that being said, I appreciate everyone's attention. Does anyone have any questions on that before I finish up? So we're good to go. And thank y'all so much for allowing me to present to y'all. And if you do have any questions, I'm on Facebook, Duff Wilson. I'll answer any of them. And hopefully I'll be able to see y'all again. The Biomic. You feel me?